Dow finished the day ahead 36. The S&P 500 was up 7. NASDAQ gained 27. There is outrage and a sense of vindication tonight among conservative groups. The IRS has admitted targeting some of those groups for scrutiny during the 2012 election season. The agency apologized today, but Chief National Correspondent Jim Angle tells us that won't be enough.
The IRS made an extraordinary admission today, saying it mistakenly probed and held up applications for tax-exempt status for conservative political groups.
They used names like Tea Party or Patriots, and they selected cases simply because the application had those names in the title. Lerner, the IRS official in charge of nonprofit designations, said that in at least 75 such applications, IRS officials stepped over the line by asking for a list of donors in some cases or seeking more information than the IRS needed. That was wrong. That was absolutely incorrect. It was insensitive and it was inappropriate. That's not how we go about selecting cases for further review. And even the White House conceded the need for an investigation.
It certainly does seem to be, based on what we've seen, to be inappropriate action that we would want to see thoroughly investigated. Lerner apologized, saying the actions were taken by career civil service workers, not political appointees, and were not politically motivated. But Tea Party groups are not satisfied.
Frankly, an apology just is not enough. We've had groups who have been waiting for 3 years, and this is a complete and total abuse of power by bureaucrats, and they're abusing the power that they have in the IRS. It's completely unacceptable.
A number of Tea Party groups had complained last year, and Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell wrote to the IRS to complain that they were being harassed. McConnell issued a statement today saying, quote, "Today's apology by the IRS is proof that those concerns were well-founded, but make no mistake, an apology won't put this issue to rest."
We've been questioning whether this has been going on for several years, and they've flat out denied it up until today.
In fact, last year when the first complaints arose, the head of the IRS flatly denied that any such actions had taken place.
There's absolutely no targeting.
Now we're finding out that our suspicions were right all along.
And today, Majority Leader Eric Cantor and several other House leaders said they will indeed investigate the IRS over its treatment of conservative political groups. Chris?
Jim, thanks. More on this with the panel.
Welcome back to Hannity. Breaking news out of Washington. A bombshell admission by the IRS. The tax agency is officially apologizing for subjecting conservative groups to additional scrutiny during the 2012 election. Now, in a statement released today, the IRS admitted, quote, mistakes were made initially, but they were in no way due to any political or partisan rationale. Now, in reality, according to an IRS official, organizations that specifically included the words, quote, Tea Party or Patriot in their tax-exempt status were faced with additional reviews. Now, that seems pretty political to me. Now, House Majority Leader Eric Cantor released a statement earlier today vowing to investigate. Now, that reads in part, quote, the IRS cannot target or intimidate any individual or organization based on their political beliefs. The House will investigate this matter. And when asked about the IRS's admission earlier today, Press Secretary, he's back, Jay Carney, he did what the Obama White House does best, and that's blame the previous administration. What a shocker. Now, fortunately, he went on to say action, well, might be taken.
Two things need to be noted, which is IRS is an independent enforcement agency. Which I believe, as I understand it, contains only 2 political appointees within it. The individual who was running the IRS at the time was actually an appointee from the previous administration. But separate from that, there is no question that if this activity took place, it's inappropriate and there needs to be action taken, and the president would expect that it be thoroughly investigated and action would be taken.
It's Bush's fault. Now, excuse me, Mr. Carney, the IRS is not an independent agency. It's part of the Treasury. And while they're investigating, they might want to look into exactly those people that have been working at the IRS, because the official dealing with the issue made another admission today, this one about her poor math skills. I can't believe this one. Watch this.
You're saying a quarter of the 300 were associated with Tea Party or Republican issues, correct?
No, I said that about a quarter of the cases that were selected for full development had either Tea Party or Patriot in their name.
Okay, sorry. Thank you for the clarification, but that would be a quarter of the 300 then. So we're talking 75 or so.
That's correct. Is that a quarter?
That's correct.
Thank you. I'm not good at math.
That's correct.
You're with the I.R.S. Thank you. Thank
But
you.
I'm a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. Sorry.
Okay.
Ah, really? An employee at the IRS can't do math. You better do your math right, or else they'll put you in handcuffs and perp walk you and take you off to jail. Here with reaction, the co-host of The Five, Kimberly Guilfoyle, from the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow, and he's been handling the Tea Party side of that case that the IRS apologized about today. That apology not accepted, Jay.
No, it's not accepted because you can say you're sorry all you want, but what they need to say is not only was it wrong and inappropriate, but it was unconstitutional, unlawful, and illegal. And Jay Carney trying to argue that the Treasury Department, the Internal Revenue Service, which is the enforcement division of Treasury, is not part of the executive branch of government is absurd. The Commissioner of Internal Revenue Service is appointed by the President with advice and consent of the Senate, and the Chief Counsel, office I used to work in, of the Internal Revenue Service is also appointed by the President of the United States with advice and consent. So, Sean, all this, I'm sorry, it shouldn't have happened, it was wrong. Remember what they were all saying just a year ago. Oh, there's no way this is partisan. And even today, the IRS says, yes, we did pick them up based on their name, and they were put through more scrutiny, including membership lists, donor data, things they're completely not entitled to under the law. But they say it's not partisan. This is absurd. So there needs to be an investigation by oversight committees of the House and Senate. I believe those are going to happen. But somebody has to be held accountable here, Sean. Well, this is outrageous.
It's an effort to intimidate. And literally,
sure.
It's pretty hostile. Now, I know you were working with the Tea Party groups. My buddy Mark Levin over at the Landmark Legal Foundation, now back in March of 2012, he sent out a letter to the Treasury Inspector General, sure, which he had told me today led to him being interviewed about this particular issue. And when you look, he had a list in his complaint in the letter of the questions that they're asking. Have you ever done any media? I mean, really? That intrusive into people's life?
Well, it's inappropriate. I mean, I got a news flash for you. The IRS are the biggest profilers in the business. And if you have any kind of conservative-leaning background, affiliation, they're going to target you and come after you. This isn't speculation. They're admitting it. And there should be further investigation into this to see how pervasive it is, what other groups, et cetera, were profiled. And regardless of partisan politics, no American group or political association or affiliation should be targeted because of their beliefs and then taxed unjustly because of it. That is unconstitutional. It is immoral and, frankly, unconscionable.
Yeah, I got to tell you, imagine if this were George W. Bush, Jay. Imagine if this is a Republican. Nixon, by the way, was accused of it.
But, Sean, let me tell you something else here. You're right. The duplicity is unreal. But this is not over. We're sending out a letter to the Internal Revenue Service and to the Chief Counsel on Monday demanding that the remainder of our clients that are affiliated with either Tea Party groups or conservative organizations be granted their exemption immediately. And let me tell you something else. We're looking at a cause of action against the Treasury for what they've done here. They don't get away with this. They should not be allowed to get away with it. So this is far from over. Apology, not accepted.
Kimberly, to me, the inquiry is about personal associations and viewpoints, not only inappropriate, but we have constitutionally protected rights here, freedoms, freedom of the press, freedom of association, freedom of speech. All of those things are in play here. And then
they're being trampled on, though, by the IRS because the rules don't apply to them, and apparently they're above and beyond the Constitution. And Jay's right. This ties right back into the administration, and this department should be scrutinized. But a lot more, I think, that's going on.
This IRS spokesperson that is admitting that they can't do math, and I'm thinking, if anybody out there that can't do math,
TurboTax all over.
Yeah, here's to a TurboTax cheat, Tim Geithner all over. I mean, if you don't do your math right, look, little old Sean Hannity, little talk show host, I don't do my math right, I'm going to be handcuffed, perp walked, and put into jail probably in 30 minutes. I'll be calling both of you as my lawyers. Would you accept?
She wasn't a spokesperson. She was, in fact, in charge of the tax-exempt division of the IRS.
It's unbelievable.
Big position.
All right, we're going to stay on this, and they're now claiming it's low-level people. Throw them under the bus.
Right. Always.
But yet they probably won't even fire anybody as a result until we push for an investigation. Guys, thank you. Good to see you.
Thanks, Sean.
We do.